Hi, and welcome to Facebook Live and the Living with a Balanced Condition page. We are almost at 7:30 and the start of the session today with Nagina Pervez. She is a psychotherapist, been in the field for how long?
15 years.
15 years as a psychotherapist and also a counsellor too. So today we're really going to be concentrating on stress and anxiety, particularly if you have a vestibular condition. We've got to make this clear, Nagina. You're not a specialist in vestibular conditions as such. No. But you can certainly talk about stress and anxiety. Yes. And you can certainly talk about people that have long-term health conditions, can't you?
Yes. In relation to the psychological impact of those conditions on them.
So if you've got a question, if you've got a comment, or even if you're just there watching and you want to say hello, tell us where you're watching from, would be great to see you. I'm Rupal Rajani, by the way. I'm the person that writes the blogs on this particular page. So if you've got any questions, any comments, or any sort of personal experience that you want to share with us, then please do so sooner rather than later, and I'll try and get through some of those questions by looking down here, on my phone. Be great to have your company this evening. So hopefully the next half an hour or so. Thank you if you are already joining us this evening. Just tell us who you are and where you are, and if I'm going to try also to include you in the conversation, I might invite you to join us as well. Hitesh, thank you. You've already tuned in. Paul, hello to you. Thank you. So, look, people are already watching. Okay. A lot of us with vestibular conditions, me being one of them, have real big issues with the condition itself, whether it's BPPV, something that I have is vestibulopathy with visual preference. There are people that have all sorts of other conditions. There's many years, just to name a few. But one of the big things I think that I constantly see on Facebook support groups, other people that I talk to, is stress and anxiety play a huge part in sort of our well-being, in terms of our conditions. Can we talk a little bit about what stress and what anxiety actually is and how it comes about?
Yes, sure. Let's go to your experience, Rupal, if you are happy to share that. I mean, how did it feel when you first had those symptoms? What was it like for you?
It was terrifying, if I'm honest. And I think anybody with a vestibular condition who's never had it before, and the first time it happens, and I think it is. You have no idea what's going on. You've got no idea. Bam, suddenly you feel really dizzy. Suddenly you can't concentrate. You can't focus. You're scared you're going to fall over. You're going to hurt yourself. So there's lots of emotions that are attached to having a vestibular condition for the very first time. I had no idea what was going on. It was so scary.
So it really put you into a place of real fear.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So once those symptoms came on, in your mind, that fear started to actually create, a real kind of boundary. You were very, very fearful. You were very fearful that those symptoms might appear again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you kind of confined, and that's what anxiety is. That once you've actually experienced that, what the anxiety then becomes is it brings up that experience. As soon as there's a trigger, as soon as you kind of think about that emotion, then the anxiety starts to play. And it plays out in such a way as though that you're in that experience at that point in time. So you might be sitting here, and as you kind of think about it now and focus on that experience, you'll find some of those symptoms will start to appear.
We'll talk about some of the cures, I guess, or I don't know if cure is the right word.
Strategies really to manage.
To manage it. But I'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you. And if you've got a question, please take advantage of Nagina and her experience as a psychotherapist. Okay, she's not sort of medically trained in vestibular disorders particularly, but she can certainly talk about the psychology of conditions, like ours, and that's what I really really want to take advantage of, because so many of us are so fearful, and me included. You know, when it comes to being able to walk down the street, if it's, you know, a busy area, I'm absolutely terrified, and I'm sure that a lot of you are too. You know, crowds scare me silly. You know, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to cope. So if you've got a question, you've got thoughts, you've got comments, you want to take part, then we'd love to hear from you, please. Thank you so much for watching and being in touch. Becca is watching, Nicola is watching. Hi, Nicola. Louise also. I live in here of the symptoms will return. In fear.
Fear, yeah.
She lives in fear of the symptoms returning. Yeah. We'll talk about that in just a second. Anne, good evening to you. Lisa Stubbs, hi. Anne Newton says, I would love Nagina to tell us about her strategies to manage many years as I returned to work today after 4 months off. How did that go, Anne? This is the biggest problem, you know, the fear and anxiety of it happening again.
Yes.
And you've got, I guess, a really good way of...
Well, one of the things is, if we are in a state of fear, then we're actually focusing on that thought, and then as we focus on that, the symptoms start to kind of, our mind works in such a way that it actually starts to bring about the symptoms. So the opposite of that is, as we were talking earlier, was very much about you kind of been through a trauma, a stressful a time, which has brought about these symptoms, and you've experienced this. So the opposite to that is that if you go back, and in order, because the mind gets anxious, so the reverse of that is to actually relax the mind, start to soothe it. And in order to soothe it is to kind of look and focus on experiences that actually bring about a lot of balance and stability for you. So when you think about those experiences, they're mainly experiences that are very positive for you. The experiences that get you feeling good about yourself. For instance, if people are... An example is, you know, when they're preparing for a holiday, for instance, you find that their mood lifts, they feel good, they're looking forward to something, and their general well-being is a lot better.
So is that something that Anne could do? She's kind of, you know, just gone back to work after 4 months off work.
Yeah, I mean, Anne can look at, I mean, there's various different types of techniques that would help. There is the kind of, I don't know whether she does any sort of form of physical exercise or is able to do physical exercise.
Do you, Anne? It's a question that hopefully she'll come back to us with.
Yes, certainly. I mean, if she is able to physically do exercise, that really helps. Yoga is very good, really, for balancing the mind and the body. Breathing relaxation exercises are really good. And it's actually even having a journal, really, because one of the things is that anxiety amplifies the fear. So when you're actually then putting information out of your mind onto something like paper or writing or journal, having a journal, it actually gives you a lot more indication of really how your health actually is, rather than it tapping into the fear of the mind.
So the key thing that you're talking about, I think, is turning that negative into a positive.
Yes.
So the brain registers that first terrible experience that you know, I think a lot of us with
and then it goes into the fear, and the fear is that constant, you know, thing of how it was, and because it's a past event, it's past, so therefore you're looking for a resolution. And that's how the anxiety works. The cycle of anxiety is it's seeking a resolution, how to actually make that better. But it can't, it's the past event. So that's why sort of the mindfulness is really helpful, because it brings you back into the present moment. And in the present moment is things that you can actually do to calm your mind and body down.
Anne says thank you. She has a long-term anxiety disorder, and she does go to the gym. She also practices mindfulness, which is fantastic. So I really hope that works. I mean, I want to share this because we met because of a mutual friend, and I wanted to talk to you a bit more about sort of the psychology of you know, sort of long-term health conditions generally. We did an interview which you can watch back on my YouTube channel if you want to. Just look for Rupal Rajani. But one of the things that you got me to do was, and I want you to explain it, right? But you asked me about one of my biggest fears, and I said, okay, crossing a big road with lots and lots of traffic. And do you remember the conversation? Do you remember what you said to me, what I needed to do to sort of mentally remember or get across that road safely?
Yes, and the thing is that if you actually go into the fear, then what you're doing is almost like creating every possible scenario of stopping yourself from doing that, because you're fearful. You think that something dangerous is going to happen. You'll be in danger, basically, and that's why the mindfulness is really important, because it brings you into the present moment, and you're actually going through the experience. Now, when we actually go through the experience, we manage. Where we don't manage is when we're actually reflecting on it, when it's a past event, because it's actually not happening, and we're trying to reach a resolution with something that just is circling in our mind. So it's almost like having toxic fumes in a house and you're not opening the windows, because you need to actually release that, in some way. And to release it is to bring the situation in the present moment. And we so often get stuck in trauma from the past. And every time we go and revisit it, it amplifies it, because our minds are desperately looking for a way out. And there is no way out, because the event has gone.
So going back to that sort of crossing the road scenario, you asked me to imagine what it was like before my vestibular condition, didn't you? You said to me, she said, just what was it like before you went across that big road? Did you have any, what were your thoughts? What were your feelings? I said, never even thought about it. I just walked across the road. It's like an everyday occurrence. I could do it without any hassle whatsoever. And then you asked me to do that. You said to me, right, okay, next time you do it, think about that. Have a go at don't even think about it. Just like try and walk across the road like it was before.
Yes.
And actually, it was quite partly difficult to imagine that, because you are so scared and you're physically having difficulties getting across that road. But actually, I felt so much better. I felt so proud because I could actually walk across that road with less fear.
Yes.
And it really does work.
It works, because one of the things is our minds actually record information. So if we've recorded a trauma and we're focusing on the trauma is the thing that we are actually recreating, Now, that's why the experience of going back to before it happened actually brings that experience up, and that is the one that gets played out, So you feel safe.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, anxiety creates a feeling of being unsafe, and going back to how experiences actually are for you, you've got to feel safe, And the feeling safe, you felt fine crossing it. You're no longer under that anxiety, and that's why mindfulness is in the moment. You see, in the present moment, whatever we encounter, we deal with, right? So whether it's a difficult situation or whether it's a pleasant situation, we are able to manage it, However, because of the way anxiety is, it's very much looking back at the past event, and recreating that. And so, for instance, after feeling any condition like dizziness, or where you felt ill, or where you felt, there's been a problem with your health, then what the anxiety is that you're going to be in that state of trauma. And therefore, if your mind is fixed in that state of trauma, that's exactly what you will be feeling, So instead of focusing on what that condition is, the best way to move forward with that is focus more on well-being. Actually looking at things that you can actually do to make yourself feel better. One of the things is people often suffer with sleep, when they're anxious, their sleep patterns are really poor. So it's really, really important to regulate your sleep, to ensure that you actually have sound sleep. And that's to relax the body, that's to kind of look at things that make you relax, things that make you feel good. Because we so often, when we experience trauma, we start to actually punish ourselves, because you get angry with yourself. Why can't I do this? I'm useless. You go into all the judgments that's ever been sort of handed over to you. And so you play out all those things.
I want to talk about guilt in a few minutes' time, but I just want to go to Becca, who says she's got vestibular migraine. She's had it for 6 years, and after the first major attack, took years to get back to a normal life. But life whilst also living in fear and severe anxiety of it happening again.
Yeah.
And now it has, since I've had my son 4 months ago, and afraid of going anywhere alone as I can't focus. What would you say to Becca? So she's had vestibular migraines a while back. It kind of got better. And then it's come back again.
So when it got better, what was happening in
Becca's life?
Yeah.
Becca can hopefully tell us
Yeah.
in a few minutes. What difference does that make?
Well, in relation to when things start to improve, obviously there's some changes that are happening in your life. There's some, you're going through some experience that is actually... Because basically, when you have a condition, if your thought process is diverted to something, it's often when, for instance, someone might feel unwell, they're pregnant, they have a baby. Once you have a child, your attention is totally diverted to the baby, so you're concentrating more on that. So a lot of the symptoms of something that might have been an issue or a problem to start with actually subside because you're concentrating on something else. So it's taking that focus away. But what she does highlight quite clearly is the fear, and it's the fear, and as you tap into that fear, what that fear does, it recreates that experience because you think, oh God, it was like this, and so what it does, it kind of repeats that in your mind of what it was like, and not only does it repeat it, it starts to amplify it.
So again, I guess it's kind of like learning to not be so fearful.
Yes, the fear is the major issue. It's the fear that kind of draws you in, and then it's like you're looking for a solution. You want something, you want some sort of help, you want some sort of way to resolve it, but that doesn't happen. So it's a vicious cycle.
Natalie, hi, thank you for watching, and thank you for watching wherever you are. Please tell me where you're watching, tell me who you are so we can mention you, tell me what your experiences are, if you've got a question. We're talking about the psychology, I guess, of vestibular disorders. Nagina Barres is a psychotherapist. She has been for the last 15 years or so, also a counsellor. We talk a lot about, and all the pages I'm part of, and groups that I'm part of as vestibular vestibular disorders. Everyone talks about the stress, the anxiety levels, that go along with this, and I guess it's a bit of a vicious circle because and I'm saying this to you that I think I feel a lot better in terms of my condition. I think what stops me now is the anxiety and the stress and the fear. So there are things that I will avoid doing, with vestibular conditions. I think a lot of people, for instance, will avoid going to the supermarket, for instance, and correct me if I'm wrong, or I'll go when it's quieter, to deal with the panic attacks that you get and the dizziness and whatever. So there's things that you will avoid doing. Is that an answer?
Well, the avoidance in itself then starts creating that kind of barrier really to full recovery, because what you're doing is you're still in the fear and you're still not doing things. And actually doing it, like for instance when you crossed the road, when you actually did it, it changed the experience. So if you still work in the fear, what that happens is it still keeps you restricted. You're still restricted.
Becca's come back and she said, she started work and she had better things, keeping her busy and felt happy about life. She even started kickboxing and Pilates. So it's that again, isn't it?
Of course, it's very much, it's like engaging with things that are going to be really beneficial for you, that are going to be healthier experiences and positive. And the more you focus on positive experience, the better you'll start to feel.
Yeah. Natalie, she said, I had vestibular migraine, had my daith pierced, and I've only had 3 migraines since. Well done, you. I don't know if you're aware of daith piercing. It's something that's sort of like an acupressure point within the ear for people with vestibular migraine or migraines generally, I think. And it's worked wonders for Natalie, so well done, you. Just want to go through some of these questions and thoughts. Marie Louise Butler, she says, I've had labyrinthitis twice, and second time I lost hearing in my left ear. and now I have constant tinnitus, and my balance is worse during time of the month or if I'm really tired. So that, again, hormonal sort of changes can really affect people. But I guess time of the month can also emotionally be quite draining, can't it?
Yeah. And I think it's really listening to your body, and it's really, really important, because often what we do is we continuously push ourselves and we want to engage with activity. But I mean, it's allowing yourself to have periods of rest where you are able to relax, you are able to have time out, and do more leisure activities if your lifestyle permits that, because that's the things that are going to really help you.
I just want to go back to Becca, because she has put more stuff, which is a little bit, concerning. Becca says, since all of this, I'm scared of my own raised heartbeat, or using kitchen knives, or getting on buses. Literally, it has spiraled into being fearful of most things. What would you advise Becca and people in that situation?
I mean, Becca, have you actually looked at getting therapy, having a one-to-one therapy, possibly, that would help? Because I think that would probably be helpful as well, because obviously there's a lot of fear there. So it's about working through that fear and the triggers that bring that on as well for you.
Get some help, really genuinely get some help. Get some advice, having someone to talk to, I think makes a huge difference. And I think one of the other things, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is that you kind of, because it's one of those kind of conditions, a vestibular condition is not something that you can see. It's not like being in a wheelchair. It's not, something, so you look fine, and people don't always understand it. And I get really frustrated with that. I get really frustrated because I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm asking for understanding. But that adds to the stress because other people don't understand that there is something physically going on that you, to some degree, can't control.
Yeah. And I think that is a major issue with issues, mental health issues, really, because the person might look physically absolutely fine, but mentally they are in a state of high levels of anxiety. So I think in some ways we often we want to kind of get some sort of validation from people, don't we, to say that there's an understanding. I think there's a lot of work being done in that area to raise awareness around issues around mental health. However, I think it's not to put your energies into looking for some sort of validation from others. I think it's concentrating on your own well-being that's really important, rather than thinking, well, people don't understand, or, kind of wrestling with that frustration just adds to the anxiety. So rather than that, is actually focusing on your own self-care.
Easier said than done sometimes, though, isn't it, Nagina?
Well, I think that, it's really where you want to put your energy, isn't it? Do you want to wrestle with a problem, or do you want to actually kind of focus more on your own?
What about guilt? Because this is a big thing as well. When, guilt is part of it, because you can't do the things that you could, you can't look after the people that you can't do. I mean, for me, it was like the job. I can't do the, I'm not at work. I haven't been to work for 2 years. I'm not bringing in the money. I feel bad about that. I feel bad about all sorts of things. I can't go to the cinema. I can't help, friends and family and do the things that I used to be able to do. Mm-hmm. How do you get over the guilt?
I think, then again, it's you're quite critical of yourself, aren't you? There's a judgment there that, you're not good enough, or you're not, you're inadequate in some way. Again, you're putting a judgment. And with that, you're actually punishing yourself, aren't you, through that process of thinking, I should. And instead of that, again, it's looking at what you can and all the things that you can actually do to make yourself feel better. Now, people around you, people that love you, that care for you, do not have those expectations in reality. It's you that are actually imposing that on yourself, really, aren't you? You're kind of putting yourself in that place where you think that, I should be doing this. Do they expect that from you?
You tell me, do they expect that from you? And if so, I mean, maybe it's those expectations that you put on yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, or you want to make a point about that. Please do. Taylor Zaborski, I hope I've got your surname right, Taylor. I have vestibular migraine and I've been having trouble with avoidance. When I do things, I get derealization symptoms and dissociate.
Mm-hmm. Again, yes. I mean, that's quite common. You will, because again, it's the fear, isn't it? It's like, if I do this, this is going to be the consequences. Instead of that, it's if you kind of concentrate on, again, I would say like something like mindfulness, and actually slowly start to engage with things that you have fear with, yeah? And as you start to do them, you will find that your experience will start to change, and you will, and the fear, once you start to action things, the fear will stop.
And that famous quote, isn't there?
It's decrease, yeah.
Do the things you fear the most, and the death of fear is certain.
Yeah. It is. It's because the mental state that we get ourselves into, the state of fear, is far greater than actually being in the experience and living it. You know, often in life we kind of fearful of so many things, but when those things are in front of us and we have to deal with it, we deal with it. You see, so our fear is greater in our minds.
Start small, you know.
Yeah.
Start small, work your way up, perhaps.
Yeah. But it's about engaging with life. It's about doing the things you want to do and actually getting over those barriers. Because once you've actually done it, you'll realise that, you know, where was that fear? The other thing I think is quite useful for people to do, especially when they have a level of anxiety and fear around particular experiences, is that if you actually write that fear down, if you use a journal, you write the fear down, and then as you are working with that material, you'll realise that how real is that fear? How powerful is that fear in reality?
Louise says, thanks for joining us, Louise. Please don't forget, keep those comments coming in, your thoughts, any questions for Nagina. She is a professional psychotherapist. She has been for the last 15 years. She's also a counsellor. She can't talk necessarily about vestibular condition, the condition itself, but she can certainly talk about the sort of psychology behind it. Louise says, I tend to be on the way somewhere, i.e. a shopping park, then on the way I think, what if? Then panic and think, how do I get home? What do I do? I get there, face the fear, and I'm fine. I talk to myself a lot in the car, must look like a loony, and breathe deeply and count a lot. Tiredness makes it worse. Fantastic.
That's
Louise.
Brilliant, yeah.
Fantastic.
It's really important, Louise, to concentrate on your breathing, because that starts to relax your mind and body. Instead of kind of going with the fear, what you might try next time is perhaps rehearsing in your mind how pleasant the journey back is. Put a positive experience in there. Go back to a memory with a positive experience. Focus on that memory, yeah. Or if you, because one of the things the mind starts to do is starts to rehearse negative experience, yeah. So instead of going up that route of the negative experience, focus on something positive. Focus on the journey as being a pleasant journey, a relaxing journey, a journey that you're looking forward to and you're going to enjoy.
You're doing brilliantly though, Louise, I tell you. You really are, because it's so difficult. It really is so difficult. Yeah. Lara says, I've had CBT for my anxiety disorder. It was so helpful. Just explain CBT, because you do a bit of that as well, don't you? Yeah,
it's kind of it's reframing things and looking at things in a different way. So it's for the experience, it's looking at it in a different way of what the client's original experience
so it's
is.
Something we've already kind of touched on in some respects. Lara, how has it helped you? What kind of help what kind of changes did you make? I'd love to hear back from you, please. Nicola, I'm also having CBT, is really helpful. Louise, I'm looking into CBT too, heard it's the best thing to do. I've had vestibular therapy, which has helped enormously. Good on you. Paul, I've had BPPV on and off at the moment. I've gone 7 months with no attacks, even though I work he works in a supermarket. I feel for you. I really do, Paul. I work in a supermarket. I've found in my situation, you must not give up and let it beat you unless, of course, it's too bad. Not give up, though, he's saying. Positive. Thank you for that. Natalie, at work, I had, it's only a headache or it's only dizziness. Get on with it. I've since changed jobs, says Natalie. So there are people that do kind of judge you during these sorts of times. Lara, thank you. She says, I write blogs about vestibular conditions and mental illness to raise awareness. Most of my blogs are about turning negatives into positives and changing your mindset through meditation.
That's excellent.
Exercise.
Yeah.
Give us the details. Send us, post the details, Lara, of your blog. Love to read it. Sandra says, totally agree with what you're saying, re-understanding. Everyone thinks I'm okay as I look okay, even though I feel I'm on a boat every minute of every day for 11 years now. I feel for you, I really do. Becca, I've bought a few how to master your anxiety type of books to read for now. Self-help
is really useful as well. I mean, there's a lot of literature available, so different techniques that can help, so there's lots and lots of things that you can actually do to help yourself.
You've talked a little bit about mindfulness. Somebody else share with us some of the things that you've tried. Somebody suggested Tai Chi for me, and I've not sort of tried it yet.
That's very good as well. Yeah, they're all, you see, all these kind of mindfulness, all these things are, one of the things with anxiety is it speeds up your mind. It speeds up. So when you're anxious, your whole system is really speeded up, isn't it? You're kind of almost like going at 100 miles an hour on a treadmill, So what really, in effect, is really important to bear in mind is when you get into a state of anxiety is that the first principle, basic thing that you can actually do is start to slow things down. And as you start to slow things down, it's starting to change the pace. So when you feel anxious, it's running at a very high speed. So what you do consciously is start to slow things down. So you start to slow things down. And that's where some people with counting or just kind of focusing on something with a different pace. And as you start to slow and unwind and start to slow things down, your anxiety levels start to go down. So, that's really, really a useful thing to do as well. It's just, and how that can work effectively is with the breathing, just with the in-breath, out-breath. As you concentrate on your breathing, you start to slow things down.
I'm going to put you on the spot slightly.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are up for it, but maybe at the end, you could maybe just do a little sort of 2-3 minute relaxation thing with us all. It's really putting you on the spot. Have a think about it. You don't have to do it if you don't want to.
Okay.
Julie Hester Lucas, she says, it's the anxiety and fear that holds me back, but I try and face my fears every day. I never thought about trying to imagine how I felt when I was well. When I felt well in the supermarket, when I felt well at work, I would try that as a coping mechanism. Thank you, she says. Mindfulness has helped me too, says Natalie. Paul, anxiety definitely makes my vertigo worse when I have it, slowing my breathing down, which is something you've just mentioned again. It really does help. Louise says thank you. Vina says, I get anxious about being anxious.
Okay, so obviously there's something in Vina's experience that actually has caused anxiety. So what it is that once you kind of think about anxiety, you think, I should be feeling that emotion, yeah? So she starts to bring that emotion up. Now, what might be helpful for her is maybe kind of having a journal or writing it down to say what she's feeling, why she's feeling it, yeah? What is it that's actually causing her to feel like that? And often it's like once you start to explore that, you find the anxiety level does start to drop. What is causing it? Because it might be something very minor. Yeah,
I'm going to share this with you, and I don't. And this is it genuinely is quite personal. I have sort of developed ever since I had this vestibular condition the first time round, and got really, really bad panic attacks to go with it. I, couldn't swallow, couldn't breathe. That feeling when you have a panic attack, and I remember trying to take some medication for it, and I couldn't actually swallow this tablet. And ever since then, I've genuinely developed a fear of taking new medication that I'm not used to. And it's something that I'm talking to someone about, to the point where I can't try a lot of the medications that the professionals have have suggested.
Are
It
you-
is so powerful, this fear, that it's got to a point, and I'm not, I hope this isn't, I'm trying to share this because I'm hoping this will help somebody. It's got to a point where I'm actually genuinely fearful of watching other people take medication as well. And it's got that bad that, I'll go to the GP and they'll prescribe me something, and I'll stare at it and go, I can't actually take this. I've never had this medication before. I don't know what it's going to do to me. I'm so scared.
So are you frightened of what the medication in terms of the side effects? Of the
Yeah.
medication? Okay. So that's
Absolutely
where your fear is,
terrified.
isn't it? Really, the fear is, what is this going? It's going to go into my body, and what is it going to do to me? So what's the worst it can do to you?
Kill me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you've taken medication before, what has that done to you?
I've had really bad side effects to some of the medication.
Okay.
I've
So
had.
that's where it goes back to, doesn't it? Really, the effect of it, the side effects, the possible danger with it all.
Yeah. And there's quite a few people saying, me too, same issue.
Yeah.
So what do we do about it then? What, in that situation?
Do you want to take the medication?
Do you know
you
what?
actually want to take it?
There is one. I went to see the neurologist a few months ago, a couple of months ago, and she said, I think you've got something called, rather than a migraine, you've got something called hemicrania continua, which is a one-sided headache, but not necessarily a migraine. It has particular symptoms. It's a particular thing with your eye swelling up, your nasal passage, etc., and the dizziness and all the rest of it. It's not a vestibular migraine. It's slightly different, quite rare apparently. And she said to me, "There's this one medication. I want you to just try it for 2 weeks, and it could possibly get rid of it completely."
Okay.
But even that, I'm too scared to.
Yeah, because your mind is focusing on the negative side effects. Now, if you turn that around to really what she actually said, and she said that this could actually get rid of it.
It could.
Yeah. So if you're concentrated and you focused on that thought of the potential cure with that, rather than the fear. So if you I suppose one exercise you could do is write the fear down. Write all the things that you're fearful of, and then write the positive down.
Okay.
Right? So what outweighs what? Would you like to get rid of it?
I'd love to get rid of it. I'd love to be able to get rid
And
of
therefore
it.
you have to get rid of the fear. And the fear is of your experience before. So you're actually stuck in that experience now. So anything anybody says to you other than that, it's not registering, is it, in your mind?
There is a slight chance, because I'm asthmatic, there's a slight chance that it could affect the asthma. So that has made me even more fearful, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe we can talk about that in a bit more detail. But there's lots of people just saying the same thing. And I'm so... Do you know what? This is therapy in itself. It genuinely is. Taylor says, I have a fear of medication as well. Monica says, me too. Vina says, me too. Paul says, I only take medications if I'm really bad. Becca says, I used to find sitting outside in a quiet natural area like the beach, or especially a wooded country area where no traffic or anything can be heard. It's so peaceful and helped with the anxiety. Monica says, when I take medication, I feel more anxious.
Okay. Well, what about looking at alternatives? What about looking at natural remedies? That's one option if you're fearful, because obviously with any medication there is the risk of side effects.
So looking at
Holistic therapies, alternative therapies.
Yeah. Sandra says, I won't take any medications. Also, side effects are, one of the big things is dizziness. A lot of them, when you have a vestibular condition, you're quite dizzy all the time. And a lot of these medications, side effects, dizziness. It doesn't help, does it?
Yeah. So therefore, I think a natural alternative might be better. Really look at what alternative medication and what sort of. Obviously, that's nothing. It's not. It's off. It'd be private where you would go, but that's an option to look at.
We're thinking about Sandra. Do you think you could do it? You physically can't put the medication in your mouth. I mean, exactly. I feel for you. I know exactly how you feel, Paul. I find I have sinus pressure just before an attack. Natalie says, never underestimate how these conditions can affect your relationships. Not everyone that we care about understands us.
Yeah.
And because we look okay, we are often perceived as being lazy. I'm now divorced because of this and slowly picking up the pieces. I had a big relapse after my dad died and my divorce came through. I had vestibular migraine and weakness in my right vestibular nerve, which was undiagnosed for many years. Which is, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Monica, it's because we had bad experience before on medication that makes us worse. Yep. Becca, I have that problem at the moment. I've been prescribed meds, but too scared of side effects of taking anything.
So maybe it's quite useful then to do
that.
some research in the area of the condition and look at really alternative therapies. Because acupuncture, you've got acupuncture, you've got hypnosis, you've got herbal medicine. So there's a whole area really that you can explore.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all your comments, Lara, Monica, Craig. Cbd oil works.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about this, because do you know much about Cbd oil?
It is becoming more available here now in this country, but in America it's been there for a while really. But yeah, it helps with a lot of symptoms around anxiety and stress.
I want to kind of round this off now, if that's okay with you guys, possibly with a bit of meditation, fingers crossed.
Okay.
But just kind of top tips then from you and from you, Nagina, as far as sort of dealing with the stress, dealing with the anxiety side when you have a long-term health condition, vestibular or otherwise.
Yeah, I think that the best way forward really is to reduce the anxiety, and to reduce the anxiety is slow the pace down. The anxiety is going at a very fast pace, and what it's doing is going into your fear. So what you're doing is you're reducing that. So as you're reducing it, it's relaxing the mind. And in order to relax it is, again with meditation, is that you can actually start to concentrate on your breathing, just slow things down. As you slow things down, just allow your mind to just pace itself, going at a slower and slower and slower pace. And as you start to reduce that pace, you'll start to relax. And as you start to relax, is then start to focus on your breathing. So what all you do in the basic technique is just concentrate on the in-breath, the out-breath, the in-breath, the out-breath. And you just start to focus on that and start to relax the mind, and almost like start that feeling of almost like you're emptying out the anxiety. The anxiety is leaving you and you're allowing it, you're just releasing the anxiety. So you're just releasing it. So whatever is there, you allow it, you just release it, and you release it. And as you're releasing it, and then you're taking your focus back onto the breathing. And as you start to do that, you'll start to feel relaxed.
Yeah, more relaxed then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the breathing is the most important thing. And it's about release, really, because really we're wrestling with thoughts in our heads, yeah? So even if we use the word release, it actually helps because we're actually saying let go of.
Yeah.
Yeah?
You've been brilliant. Thank you so much,
Thank
Nagina,
you.
for joining us. I just want to say thank you to you guys for watching as well. Paul says thanks for the therapy. James, acupuncture has massively helped me. 1 migraine in 2 weeks as opposed to 1 every day for 3 years. Acupuncture, says Natalie, helped me too. It's so relaxing. Lara says I'm a champion for acupuncture, and also take magnesium supplement 500 milligrams a day, and that helps too with the anxiety and vestibular migraines. Natalie says gardening is my best therapy, but mindfulness has been useful as well as medication. You know what? I've really started to get into gardening, and it really has.
It's a wonderful therapy.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Laura says thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you,
Thank
Nagina. Before you go, if you want to get in touch with Nagina, you can find her, and I'll put the details on in the post, is ukcounselling.service.co.uk. So it's ukcounselling.service.co.uk, and if you want a phone number, I'll put the details on in the comments section. Thank you so much for sharing as well. Please share this video with other people, and keep the comments coming. Really appreciate it. We'll hopefully do another one. If you want us to do another one, maybe in the future, let me know, and we'll be one. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, Natalie. Bye. Thanks, Nagina.
Bye. Bye.